This is Theo Goodman from dgenbet.com, and today we have a special guest. We have Tim from Bitcoin Rush, Coin Sportsbook and Casino. Thanks for coming on today, Tim.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And just to clarify that, right? So Bitcoin Rush is actually just one site of many that a parent company, Monster Byte Inc., owns and runs.
Okay, great. Okay, let's just start there then. Monster Byte Inc.
Yep.
Owns and operates Bitcoin Rush, and please tell us the other sites. I believe it's called, or
yeah, there's two other sites, and let me kind of back up a bit and give a little bit of a history. So, I found it and actually created Casino Bitcoin back in 2013. So Casino Bitcoin was, believe it or not, the world's first Bitcoin sportsbook and casino in one. So at the time, I think there was bitbook.us, and that was one of the players. There was also Nitrogen Sports that's still around today. They were at the time were only doing Bitcoin Sportsbook and nothing else. They didn't have any games, casino variants. There were also, and still are, a ton of different Bitcoin casinos out there. I think in 2013, probably the main player was bitzino.com. And I really thought that, listen, this Bitcoin thing is, it's a perfect conduit for both the player as well as the operator, right? So it's pretty easy to explain it from an operator's perspective. There's no real risk of fraud or chargeback once the transaction confirms on the network. And then obviously from a player's perspective, it's pretty powerful because it's somewhat instant. When you win, you can cash out and you can do whatever you want with it. You're not waiting for the banks to do anything with the process. And it's within 10 minutes. Most of these sites today are doing instant or near instant withdrawals. So just to, and I'm rambling a bit, but just to kind of go back, I think we started with Casino Bitcoin. We actually raised a little bit of money on Havelock Investments. It was a small team. It started literally just as myself. As we got a little bit more funded and a little bit more traction, we brought on some players. We brought on a few different partners that work alongside with me. And then we basically transformed to Bitcoin Rush when we wanted to introduce skill-based gaming, right? So there's a game on Bitcoin Rush, literally called Bitcoin Rush, which is it's a peer-to-peer game, and it's also a faucet that lets you do different things. But in 2014, to finally answer your question, we acquired purebet.org, which is going through a redesign. So don't pull it up. It looks like doesn't look that good right now, but maybe we can show you the new version at some point during this interview. And bit77.com. So they were created by Ultraplay, and Ultraplay was doing direct to consumer sites, Bitcoin focused back in that time frame, and they've since kind of branched off to just do B2B operations. So they only specialize in game and software now. They don't own or run any sites. So that was a lot, Theo. So sorry, I was kind of
okay. No, that's okay. So yeah, so there's several sites under the Monster Byte banner, and I think that today we'll just concentrate mostly on Bitcoin Rush and sports betting.
Yep.
But yeah, you were formerly known as Casino Bitcoin, with the domain, bitcoin.in.
Yes.
Kind of like the domain. It's called a domain hack. Actually, why did you change from Bitcoin Casino or Bitcoin Rush, the name? Just rebranding, or what was the main reason?
A few different things, and I'm probably going to open myself up for more trouble. But we had some serious negative SEO at the time, which hurt us quite a bit. And when we talked to a specialist, and we went through a few different firms that specialized in SEO, they were like, hey man, we've never seen anything this bad. And by the way, Google doesn't like the .in stuff anyway, so it's not helping you. In that same kind of time frame, we were looking to introduce new, peer-to-peer betting, and we thought, hey, the Bitcoin Rush game that we wanted to create really kind of opened us up for some better opportunity from an SEO perspective, and also allowed a rebrand and a relaunch of the sites.
Okay, great. Well, that must have been some pretty heavy negative SEO, but it can happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just move on from there, and let's first talk about Bitcoin Rush. Let's see. And yourself, do you have a background in the sportsbook industry or casino industry before you got into Bitcoin, or was it more Bitcoin kind of led you down the road to sportsbook and casino?
Yeah, professionally, no. I've never done anything like this. My personal time, sure, I've bet on a game. I've been to a casino. I'm not a big time gambler by any stretch of the means. I'm a self-proclaimed nerd, I guess you would say, and I definitely found out about Bitcoin first, and then kind of was like, hey, this is a really good, gambling it's one of many good use cases for Bitcoin, and that's what kind of led me to do casino Bitcoin at first, and then this thing has absolutely morphed into something gigantic. It was a hobby probably in 2013. It's a passion now. So yeah, I'm living, breathing every single day Bitcoin, as well as the sports side of the world, as well as the casino side of the world.
Okay, great. And you mentioned that you're a nerd, and when I look at the site and the games, and then I go to, let's just say, your average Bitcoin casino slash sportsbook, at least for the casino games, a lot of them are the same on every site. So did you code this whole site and the games yourself, or and the sportsbook too, or where did that come from? Because a lot of them are white labels,
Yep.
and people just kind of, they get it. That could be fine for your business. I'm not knocking white labels per se, but you see it all the time. You even see it on the comments in Bitcoin Talk. Hey, this is a new casino. And then someone says, this looks just like Casino Bit XYZ. And they're like, no, we're not associated with them at all. But it looks exactly the same. Look at the screenshots, and they're going on and on about it. And people don't realize it's just a white label. And that, of course, could be good or it could be bad. That's the business itself. But yours looks totally different. So did you code all this yourself?
We did, and I'll ramble for a minute. So I think that there are, as you mentioned, Theo, a ton of white labels out there. So I think Soft Swiss, Playtech, there's some other big brands that really give you that kind of casino out of the box, and most of those providers are now kind of entering into the world of Bitcoin because they they love it just as much as the nerds like us love it. But what we got some inspiration from obviously Bidzino, which isn't there anymore. I don't know what happened with them, but they kind of just disappeared one day. But that's the intention. I'm struggling to see why you can't get past this thing. I don't know, the the two factor thing's giving you a hard time, but yeah. So bottom line, yeah, we did code everything. I coded everything first. There was some far smarter people than myself that came in and were able to, find some holes and some exploits. And no doubt it was some expensive learning lessons in the very early days. I think things are a little bit more wrapped up, and we are starting to work on a few different reskins for some of the games. And ourselves, we want to get into the world of being able to provide Bitcoin gambling services to others, right? Because I think that Soft Swiss and Playtech, they don't really necessarily have, or at least what I've seen, a ton of provably fair gaming, but they do have, listen, they have really sexy games. It looks good, it plays good, but there's some advantages to what we've created that I think would play pretty well in both the cryptocurrency gaming marketplace as well as the traditional online gaming marketplace.
Definitely. So I'll just tell you guys and for everyone watching really quick. This is, we're doing this on the fly. I have some kind of proxy plug-in on my Chrome, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it off. So that's why I kept on getting the Cloudflare.
Oh, good.
So yeah, so I just opened another browser, and here we go with your poker. Okay, so just for people, because it's a term that gets thrown around a lot in the crypto world, you brought up provably fair. First of all, what is provably fair, and how do I prove that it is fair?
Yeah.
Because here I brought it. Your site does it pretty good in the sense that, I mean, if I really did want to check it out, here on your poker, and you got the seed, you got the hash right there. I can try to verify it. That's a pretty simple way to do it. I like that. There are a few other sites that did it in a simple way. There's some that kind of hiding it on purpose, but it's not easy to check. Let's say that. And personally, I don't think anyone is checking, or very few people are checking. And why should they? And why should they care? And what is this thing provably fair anyway? Getting too crazy on us.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Hit deal. Let's play one without you changing anything. And as you're playing, we'll kind of go through this, right? So play like you normally would. Yeah, I don't know what you do there. Probably hold the fives. It's probably strategy there. Okay, so you got two pair. Cool. So now open up that provably fair window. So what happens here is before you hit deal, on the very bottom there was a next hand, and there was there's a client seed and a hash secret, right? So before we do anything, we're shuffling a deck behind the scenes, and we're kind of keeping a little of the details hashed for you. So you'll notice that there's a hash secret for next hand. That is literally the next hand, and it's just it's a deck, and it's shuffled, and we've used a secret or a server seed on our side to encrypt that. Now, with the client seed, Theo, if you go ahead and type in whatever you want for the next hand, whatever it could be, your name, your lucky number, your dog's name, whatever, your favorite song, anything you want, you can kind of change, that, right? So if you click verify first, though, for the current hand, right? So the last hand that just happened. So that's all JavaScript, right? So that's not going out to the server. It's not doing anything. It's basically saying your initial shuffle and your final shuffle were all based on those three values above: the client seed, the hash secret, and the server seed. So when Theo's gonna hit deal on this next hand, it's gonna take that hash secret at the very bottom, and it's gonna convert Theo to a number, that string Theo to a number, and it's gonna cut the deck for him. And then when he's done, if you just click the X, when he's done, he can kind of open that back up and make sure that, oh, look, you got fives again. So he can verify that we didn't do anything behind the scenes to alter the initial deck. Oh, wow. As well as his final deck. So if you click verify, you're good. You're hot. You should have played for real money. Now change anything. Change up top, either to be it Theo or the hash secret. You can alter any of those things to kind of verify that we're not screwing you here. So again, it's taking that, and it's making sure that really the initial shuffle and final shuffle match what you provided. So very long-winded. I think this is something that the math guys, the nerds, the people that got into Bitcoin were like, hey, we really need to somehow find a way to verify that casino operators are not cheating players. And this was kind of a mechanism that we didn't create. It was actually the guys from Benzino that created it the first time around. And it's really caught fire within the industry. So, a little Baccarat, which is a great game.
Right.
You lost
the same. I just wanted to show that it's the same. It's a pretty simple setup, but you have, you've got the basic games. You got the poker, the baccarat, the roulette, and high-low, blackjack. So you got everything here, and all of it has this provably fair thing. And so when you go to, I don't play slots at all either, but I've just noticed at the sites have the same slot games. They're kind of like with big videos and all that stuff. But none of them are, if you look around and you investigate it, I think there's maybe one or two by some of these white label providers that are, I think maybe blackjack and dice are sometimes, it says provably fair on there. And you might be able to get the data that we just got for our games, something really similar, but the rest of them aren't. So that just means that it could say the house edge is so much percent on this slot, but I can never prove it. So is that basically what can I somehow, I mean, I understood it like, okay, the house edge of, you don't have it listed here, but we know that I have a certain percent chance hit rate on roulette. It's negative expectation, but we know what's possible. And then the provably fair just proves that that is correct, that you didn't do anything like you described. Is that the basic gist of it?
Yeah, you know what? When you go to a physical casino, you can actually see people truly, for roulette, you can see them spin the ball. And for other games, you can see them shuffle in front of you. And online doesn't have that advantage, right? So there is nothing to say, hey, yeah, you know what? We're not rigging the deck or rigging the spin here against you. So that's really the gist of provably fair. And yeah, some people have this, but most of the out of the box white label solutions do not have it. So, but then they might say they have it, but they actually really don't have it, like you mentioned.
Right. Exactly. Right. Okay. Good. I think it's a good discussion. It's becoming a ongoing topic. I think it's growing in relevance. Provably fair. People are talking about it, and I don't know if all of us know what it is or how to check it and so on. So if you are into games, then you could do that. But let's go over to the sports section and get into that more. And let's see. I wanted to ask. I mean, for me, the user interface is okay, but a lot of people are, hey, it looks kind of old, or I don't know. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm used to, or I do soccer. I'm used to having 50 options for every game. And I'm sure that. Hey, even the like Nitro or whatever other ones don't have all those soccer options. That's just like some of the bigger regulated books have that for the most part. But people always find something that they want and they're looking for, and you do have the basic stuff like over under goals or an MMA over under rounds. Got the totals and money line and spread usually too, all those. And I did notice that you have been doing something about the parlays, that you can parlay different sports, but not always. But so basically, I just wanted to ask your main goals for improving the sports book. What kind of things do you want to do? What is the next thing coming up? You look for the odds are looking pretty good. I could even do a comparison really quick while you're talking, but odds look okay. That's fine. But what about, I don't know, buying and selling points, teasers, parlays? Most people, they were like, hey, I want to make a parlay. I can't figure out how to do it.
Yep. Yeah. No doubt. And I'd say that, being in this business for 4 years, the first thing I tell you is that it's been pretty humbling. So there are things that, everything you mentioned is spot on. There's definitely opportunity for improvement from the user experience perspective. And just giving a brief background, we've had a few different iterations of the sports book along the past 4 years. So when we first launched, we were actually taking the risk ourselves. So that means when you took the bet, we were kind of hoping you lost, to make money. And that proved to be pretty foolish, for lack of a better word.
I like that. Okay, I want to talk about that, because a lot of people think that it's either one or the other. That they think either they just fade the players always, or they think sports books always balance. So
Yeah.
could you just tell us from your perspective, is it a mix in your experience, or do how does that work?
Well, from a business perspective, the right approach is a mix, right? So the right approach should be, let's get, if we don't have any history of you, we're gonna offset that risk, and hopefully we're offsetting it programmatically with slightly better odds, so that we're making some percentage of the bet regardless if you win or lose. As we get more volume, all right. So if we see that you're a below average better, that's when we kind of shift gears a bit and say, hey, listen, this guy's going to bet, and most of the times he's not winning, so we're gonna take that risk ourselves. That's the kind of nirvana model, and that's, listen, I think most people that are probably in this business that are much bigger than us, maybe even Nitrogen Sports, to be honest with you, is probably doing that right now. That's kind of what we're working on to get to. And we can kind of give you a sneak peek once we go through this, of the new sports book that does a little bit more of that. And that's, again, it's from this industry. Here's our main objectives, right? One, we have to have better odds. We have to have the best odds. It's regardless of whether the site looks good or doesn't look good. If you're really shopping and you want to put your money down on a bet, you should find places that offer you the best odds. The second thing that you should be looking for as a player is, I'd recommend, obviously our site. I'd recommend Nitrogen Sports to people. I'd recommend those are probably the only two from a Bitcoin only perspective, because those are the two that have most likely been around the longest, and they haven't run and they haven't scammed people. I'm sure there's other reputable people in the industry, but those are the two that kind of come to my head. Then the last thing is the user experience. So you got to make sure that you have the best user experience. You're having a good time when you're playing on the site. It works on your phone. It works on your iPad, and it obviously works on your desktop. So I think that's where, candidly and humbly, that's where Bitcoin Rush needs to improve. I think the first two things we do pretty well at. And the third thing that, we do have some plans to get better at, which we can show.
Okay, right on. That was me pinning the message in the Telegram channel that you're into. Sorry about that.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Like I see that, since, let's see, I think over a year and a half ago, since then, about around then, you did improve the odds significantly. So that's, hats off for that. And yeah, they're very competitive. Just looking at tomorrow's UFC card, it's pretty right on with every other book out there. So you definitely have competitive odds. So just check over here. Of course, odds go up and down just like everything else. Use a little snapshot of best fight odds, and here are a bunch of well-known bookmakers, including, something regulated like William Hill, Pinnacle, etc., 5 Times Bookmaker, all, the big ones out there in the world. And you're right in line. We got JDS 2.15, you got 213. That's still pretty good. And same with some others. You're spot on or really close. So that's good. You're in the upper area of the odds, that's for sure. Just with that snapshot, and we could try to go through all kinds of sports and find it. But I think in general, you've got that. So, what about live betting? I think that you're working on something with live betting, right?
Yep. So I'll tell you what. Go to in your URL. We'll give a little bit of sneak peek of the new version. So take out go to type in sportsbook /B/NBA. So, and folks listening and watching at home, this is kind of a proof of concept of our new sports book. So this not only is a different look and feel, as you can see, it's a far sexier version than what we have out there now. But it doesn't necessarily work though. So
okay. That's okay. I'm just gonna
it also this also ties into a different odds provider, which will allow us to take a lot more different types of action, right? So today you can buy points, up or down. You can parlay. I think this UI makes it quite easier to do both of those things, where it's a little bit more transparent on how to do those things. And yes, to answer your question, we will offer live betting, and we'll also have first quarter, second half bets, first half bets, all the pretty much all
props.
Types of different events. Yeah, and definitely props. Yeah, props for sure. So we're working on this right now. We do anticipate this probably launching. I think for most of the main sports, I think we're aiming for the end of May, and then as we're going to roll in a little bit more different types of options that we don't have right now, like darts and NASCAR, things of that nature, and
exotics.
All the exotics, absolutely. Probably over the course of the summer.
Okay, great. Okay, so bet limits on Bitcoin Rush. Can I come in here and throw 10 Bitcoin on, Celtics tonight?
It depends on the event. So the minimum is 1 MBTC, so it's about like $1.70, US today. For most events like this, the max that we're going to take is about 2 Bitcoin at current rates.
Okay. So what is that, like $3 or $4 grand, depending?
Yeah, pretty much, right? That's at today's rates, that's what it is. For listen, when we get into the finals for NBA, when we get into the Super Bowl, when we get into football, those limits do go up. But that's just kind of where we're at today.
Okay. Good. All right. And I want to talk about a deposit bonus, or what kind of system you have, because everyone has seen sports books as well as casinos offer, hey, we've got a big deposit bonus, come on. And that's one of the main marketing methods used to get players. And it's also, as far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen and what I see on people complaining about, it's one of the top complaints as far as, hey, this site is scamming me, deposit bonus, and I don't get my money, and so on, because people just misunderstand. I think it's of course, some of the times the site could be wrong and they are fraudulent, but a lot of the time players just don't get it. They're new, they don't understand deposit bonus. So you don't have a traditional deposit bonus, but you do have a kind of reward system. Tell us about it.
So if you go to URL, just go to bitcoinrush.io/promotions.
Okay.
And let's load this guy, and it's going to look drastically different than what the awesome site that you were on. So you're dead on, Theo. I think that we've been debating internally and kind of at the monster byte level, up at the parent level, on what should we be doing. Should we be doing a deposit bonus? And we've always gone back and forth. And there's technically speaking, it's not terrible to do. It's not hard to do, but being transparent and kind of giving that feedback to the user of like, hey, here's where you're at, and here's what you need to get to kind of get a little bit more reward. That's the hard part. And that's where it goes into the customers being like, hey man, I deposited, but what happened? Where's my bonus? All those things. So in lieu of that, we created this kind of tier level, right? So everybody that signs up, you get, you're in the red tier, and then as you play, you get a little bit more. So once you earn 50 MBTC credits, which is really not terribly hard to do, we start increasing the kind of compensation that we give back to you every night. So there's a process that runs. It looks at all your play in the sports book as well as the casino. And if you scroll down here, we give you money back. So, and this is basically a table that shows you the percentage of money that you're going to get back, regardless of whether you win or lose. So you're getting this kind of money back just by playing, and it's automatically.
Okay. So it's volume. So basically, just sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
This is volume based, and it's a cash back. So there's no rollover here. When I get
that's right.
you pay it. What do you pay it? Always at like, midnight or something like that every day?
Yeah, it's midnight every night. If we have your email address, we kind of shoot you a note that says, "Hey, there's something in your account." If you don't have an email address, that's fine, and it's still in your account next time you log in, and it's just yeah, and like I said, there's no rollover with this, right? It's just cash back, and you can either continue playing with it or you can cash it out immediately.
Okay, great. So basically, it's just a cash out program, and yeah, there's different, like you said. Okay, of course, if you go into the different, but for the sports book, 0.1% up to 0.25% just on your volume.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but that does kind of add up. So I think people just need to. It's just about perception. Deposit bonus sounds good and it looks good. Deposited, let's say I deposited, $1,000 or $1 Bitcoin. Now I've got 2 Bitcoin on my balance, but I don't know what 25 rollover, or I don't know what.
Yeah.
People don't really. And then with this, it doesn't look really dramatic, but there's no rollover. So for people that don't know, there might be some people listening that don't even know what rollover is. Rollover just means how many times you have to use it before you can withdraw. So let's say I give you 100% bonus, 1 Bitcoin, I'll give you a Bitcoin amount in the sports book, but you cannot withdraw the bonus money until the bonus money has been bet 25 times, which that you've got to be a good, you've got to be a profitable bettor, basically. And that, a lot of people fall into that on the casino side, and they wonder what happened, because I think some of the casino bonuses are even like 100 times rollover. I don't even know. So you're just doing. I don't know if I haven't. I'm not sure if cashback casino is a standard, but I guess that some people offer that too. But that seems pretty good. I was going to try to figure out how I can calculate that into the effective odds, because okay, you're doing cashback, and if I'm a high volume player, then of course then my effective odds are going to be better here. I'm looking over here, like I said, you had Junior Dos Santos. I'd have to do some kind of math, but 0.1% is the first level, right, of cashback.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So then I could just add that to this odd, and then I would get my effective odds. So if you're a real math people out there, depending on what level, you could just do that. So it's just a matter of how you want to look at it. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, as you've been talking, I actually was trying to get some metrics, right? So just for this month of May alone, and we're only 12 days or 11 days actually into it, we've already given out 1.1 Bitcoin worth of comps on this program.
Okay.
So this is, it was a partner of mine that kind of came up with this concept. He's stronger in mathematics than most people. He's a true math nerd, and he was like, listen, we offer better sportsbook odds, and then we start giving people, some of the taste and some of the money back. We're going to get, we're going to really be able to take advantage of that and be able to market that. So, yeah, that's what it is. So this is real money that's going out, and it's one of the probably hidden gems in our site. A lot of people don't know that this actually happens until they come.
Great. Yeah. No, I agree. I felt when I really looked at it, I thought, hey, that's a good way to do it, and it's not as deceptive as deposit bonus for people that don't get that. Okay, about sign up, you mentioned email. As far as I understand, you don't have to have an email address to sign up. You can just sign up with a username, Bitcoin address if you want to withdraw, and there you go, right? You don't have to give any personal data.
Nope. That's it. Just a username and a password. And yeah, when you want to withdraw, you got to give us you obviously have to give us a Bitcoin address where we can send the money to.
Right, and you do have Google 2FA support.
That's right. Yeah, we do support two-factor to be able to lock your account. And there's some other things. Listen, being in this industry for 4 years, the Bitcoin is ripe for abuse and hackers and thieves, and Listen, one site gets hacked and you get your username kind of, listen, Bitcoin Talk itself has been hacked a few times, and they go and they say, hey, I know this is Theo's username and here's his password. They try it on every single site. There are some other hooks that we have as part of the, some security things that I won't go into detail, but, two factors obviously fully recommend it. But there are some other things that we do some protection, and we can with a pretty good percentage be able to identify some fraud on your account. So there are some other protections.
Okay, great. Are there any countries that are restricted from Bitcoin Rush, like IP ban, basically?
Yeah, so today we do not allow the UK. The UK actually reached out to us, and I think some of our peers, and said, hey, you gotta have a license to operate, and that license is quite expensive. I'm talking serious money. I think upwards of about like 200,000 US. So that wasn't something that we wanted to entertain. We feel like our games are mathematically verifiable and they're provably fair. So we've also been in the industry for a while, so we don't, we definitely probably want to entertain a license at some point, but that wasn't something that we wanted to do at that point. There are other states in the United States that have other restrictions. Like New York, for example, has, in order to do anything in Bitcoin, you need to have the bit license, which is even, I think it's like $1 million. We didn't have $1 million laying around. So if you're unfortunately in New York and some other unfortunate states, we unfortunately can't take your play or take your action.
Okay, great. Well, that's understandable. There's only so much you can do, right? Okay, and what were some of the biggest events volume-wise for Bitcoin Rush last year? And if you can tell us the amount of volume, I don't know what you want to disclose, but you could just tell us in general, because there's not a lot of information about the sports betting side as far as volume. Now, some of the dice sites have APIs, and people are tracking the volume, and there are these these big posts, oh, so many Bitcoin are gambled a day on casinos, they estimate, but there's not really any kind of estimate on the sports side. And so I was just wondering if you could just tell us at least like some of the big events, and give us, and you told us about the comp so far this month, for example, but anything you could tell us about that.
Yeah, so no doubt the biggest event from a sportsbook perspective is always the Super Bowl. So that's by far we offer the most props, especially in the Bitcoin space. So we actually aggregate from a few different places. So we did I think so. I don't have to get the math. I think I'm going to try to look for it while I'm talking to you, but we did somewhere just in volume alone that day, probably around US equivalent, maybe about like 300K, which isn't terribly big when you probably look at the main sites, like the main traditional sites, as well as even like Nitrogen. Some of our peers probably did a lot better than that, but that was a really big day. There was probably like and when you look at the props, there was probably a bet every other play in terms of, it's always an exciting time to watch the Super Bowl when there's that many bets. We follow that up. I think that we normally do, we do pretty high volume in US based sports. So we had the Kentucky Derby a couple weeks ago. We didn't do terribly big volume there. It was probably less than 10K from a volume perspective. But if we get a horse, if this horse wins, this upcoming week, I think that there'll be a little bit more interest on the final leg of the race to see if he wins a triple count. So all those things do well. Basketball does very well. Football dominates. Hockey not so big. Baseball gets a pretty good steady action as it gets into the regular season and the playoffs.
Okay. All right, and recently you had a fundraise, and you decided to, list Canadian, kind of like a startup place where people can get equity into your company, into Monster Byte. And why did you guys decide to go that route and not the ICO route?
Yeah, so some history. When we originally launched in 2013, we did a small equity round on Havelock Investments, which don't even bother going to it on your URL. They're kind of defunct at this point.
No, I think some people listening will know Havelock if they've been around.
Yeah, it was really awesome, and we were able to raise. At the time, it was 500 Bitcoin, which that's going to sound crazy at today's prices, but back then it was about $100. So we raised around $50,000 to basically A, beef up the bankroll, and then B, better market the site, and C, build new games, do redesigns, all those things. So that was pretty exciting, and it was an awesome opportunity, and we really appreciate everybody that invested, and then even the guys at Havelock, we do appreciate their support. But for whatever reason, I think that Havelock's not really a viable option for us anymore. So we're looking to do some other things, right? So this is still very much it's not necessarily a startup because we've been operating and we've been profitable for a few years, but we're still at a point where we think that in order to compete with some of the bigger players in our space, we're gonna need some real funding, not $50K. So we started launching there's actually a few things that I can disclose. So we started with the OCMX. We kind of put that on there, got some interest. We got some people that were interested, but nothing's necessarily been finalized there. We're actually working with both the funder beam as well as some private investors to help us. So the funder beam is pretty cool. They do a syndicate. It's a little bit like Havelock, but it's all euro based or dollar based. So we're looking to give up some equity, in exchange, or even take on some debt, anywhere from about $500,000 to $1 million, and all that would really go into product marketing, some of the new sites that we have, and we really want to transition, or start branching the company into more of a B2B player, right? So I think there's a lot of value to being in this space for a few years. We've learned a lot. We've built pretty cool games that I think we can either white label or give some APIs out there, and even our sports book, especially the new one, we feel like it's well positioned to be able to be leveraged by others. Now, why didn't we do the cryptocurrency, right? Why didn't we create an ICO? Everybody's creating an ICO. Why didn't you guys do it? We looked heavily into that, and I think that we probably would have got what we needed pretty quickly. Maybe not. I don't know. But we feel like there was just too much volatility in the price of cryptocurrency to really be able to peg it down. If we said, hey, we wanted to raise, I'm just making this number up, but $500,000 today, and we take in, however many Bitcoin that would be, and then next week the Bitcoin price doubles or halves, which is, listen, it could happen. We felt like that would be unfair to people that kind of bought in, and B, potentially unfair for us if we can't really move on what we need to do. We didn't like that. So the other, that's one reason. I think the other reason is that we're looking to get a little bit more, open this up to more institutional investors that can take Monster Byte, not just from where it's at today, but maybe take it into a far bigger role in gaming. Gaming's a gigantic industry. It's $47 billion today from a yearly perspective in terms of revenue. So having, a true kind of, whether it's a VC firm or whether it's an institutional investment or whatever kind of firm that kind of has background in this space that can, coach myself as well as, my team to kind of get to that next level is really what we're looking to do.
Okay, great. And how successful has the equity round been so far?
We've raised $150,000 US. There's a couple other offers that we're still entertaining. There's, believe it or not, there's supposed to be 2 offer sheets to come this afternoon, knock on wood. It's been, I'd say, when we compare it to the Havelock days, it's been a lot slower. Like, Havelock, we launched this thing and people bought it within minutes, and we were like, oh wow, that was quick. We should have probably raised more. But with the institutional investors, there's a lot more due diligence. There's a lot more vetting, and things just, fortunately or unfortunately for us, move a little bit slower. So far we got 150K. The round's still open. We're still entertaining things. We have a pretty solid pitch deck, PPM, historic and projected P&L. We have the whole works. We're doing this in a way that's a little bit more professional than what you might see on some of the ICOs. So we're still out there, still looking, still growing. We'll get there.
Okay,
though.
great.
I feel confident we'll get there.
I'll put a link in the description to the pitch deck on the if people are interested.
Sure, perfect.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to tell us about Bitcoin Rush and about editing? You think it's going to keep? I guess you think it's going to continue to grow since you're here, and the same thing with Provably Fair in your games. What final words do you have for us?
No, I mean, I think I'd say that, listen, Bitcoin is still the perfect conduit for gaming. I think that it's been a little bit more established when you see, I think 5 Dimes actually takes Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, sure.
They take Bitcoin and then they somehow convert it back to like $1 or some type of unit, and then you can cash it back.
So a lot of the bigger books do that. They just hold it in fiat then.
Yeah, which is fine, but it also proves kind of the point of like, hey, this is the perfect conduit for both the player as well as the operator. It's a perfect medium. I recommend anybody listen, even if you don't like Bitcoin Rush for whatever reason, that's fine. But I would say be careful. Make sure that you're going to more established places. I know Theo does have links to those established places. I'm not going to give him a shout out on my final word here, but I would trust what Theo's kind of linking you to. I would play at those sites. Be safe. There's going to be a lot of sites that come out. They always come out. They give you these great bonuses, and it looks it looks too good to be true. It usually is. So that's it. I think that be safe and have 2-factor enabled on all the sites, and trust the sites that have been around for a while. And definitely if you have interest in Bitcoin Rush and playing, just shoot us a note. If you have questions, we're on Twitter, as well as we have an email address, and we're going to be setting up some live chat here in the future. Happy to help you out, and best of luck. Hope everybody wins.
All right, thanks a lot for coming on. Everyone, check in the description that I'm going to add. Also, make sure to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, put your comments in the comments below, and we'll get back to you. Also, check us out in the Telegram chat, Telegram/sportsbet. Tim is also around in Telegram. So if you find me in the sports bet, you do want to reach out to Tim, then just hit me up in there, and I'm sure I can get Tim to maybe get you into a chat if you want to talk about Bitcoin Rush or you have questions about the site. So he is around. So thanks a lot for watching.
Thank you.